Happy September 26th, Tuesday, September 26th. Welcome back. It's good to be back in the building. I was out 3 days last week. I think I told you I was going to be out of the building. Had a little surgery done, but I'm back. A little tender and sore, but it's nice to be back in the swing of things. You can see the agenda for the week as well as for today. This will be the only video that I am posting as I'm kind of laying out the rest of the week and the project that you guys are working on. Just a couple of heads up here. Remember, since I'm back every day this week, we will have meet-ins, check-ins rather, on Tuesday and Thursday. Remember, Friday is an early release, so we will not have a check-in that day. Tuesdays and Thursdays, you should check one of those days, you should check in with me. Be reminded that your participation points, half of them are based on checking in with me each week. The other half is turning in assignments on time. So some of us have lost some points because we haven't gotten our assignments done in a timely fashion. You can expect that this week I will start reaching out to parents for kids who have not been checking in or been getting their work done on time. So with the housekeeping items taken care of, let's get into business here. We'll start with the posts on Rousseau's direct democracy. I like the answers that I saw. The question was, is it a direct democracy in which every citizen of society, is it achievable and is it a good idea? Explain. Now, a lot of our answers drifted to if it's a good idea. We didn't necessarily address the achievability of it. So I guess I'll do that. But in the future, when we do these, make sure you're answering both parts of the question. Joe Sanders says that he believes a direct democracy is a good idea for today's world because it'll hold individuals accountable and ensuring that everyone has a voice. Today's world, we know that all leaders make promises and they have no plan on keeping them. A direct democracy in which people have a say will stop that from happening. It'll hold people accountable. I like it. Nevaeh agrees with them. It'll make people more engaged because it allows them to have an option to be listened to. Interesting point there. Christian also agrees. World leaders need to be accountable for their unfulfilled promises. Nevaeh, in her original post, allows everyone to have a voice and their opinions to be heard as direct communication, right? Milana agrees with that. I think, and she goes on in her initial post, it's a good idea. It allows people to have a direct say in the decision-making process, and it promotes engagement with citizens. There's no question that in the 21st century, we have an engagement issue. There's no 21st century. There's no question that we have an engagement issue in this country going back over 100 years. More or less, right around 50% of eligible voting Americans vote. Like in good years, we get up to 60, 70%. Still not good. There's a lack of engagement. Jamie Peltier agrees with Milana and Nevaeh. Everyone should have a say, have an opinion, know what's going on in the government. There potentially a direct democracy could have an influence on the lack of engagement amongst the American electorate. No question there. There's no question that a direct democracy could hold politicians accountable for the promises that they've made. There's no question that a direct democracy could help prevent the wealthy, the elite, from taking advantage of the middle and lower class income earners. Half of Congress is millionaires. 3/4 of the Senate is millionaires. Most American presidents, except for like 10 or 12, millionaires. The wealthy make the decisions. There's no arguing that in the last 40 years, the number of families that have $10 million in their banking accounts have multiplied by 10. There are 10 times as many families with $10 million saved up than there were 40 years ago, while the average income of an American has decreased in the same amount of time. But we didn't address the achievability of it. Is it achievable? Could we really have 330 million Americans participate? Well, some of them are going to be minors. So let's say, can we really have 150 Americans participating on every single issue, having open debate, having a place to speak and be heard. Is it achievable? Are these people going to be able to take off work to participate in government? Are they going to have the time when they're working multiple jobs to read up and be informed on the issue? In a country where, again, half of the people vote, is this going to change their engagement? I don't know if it's achievable. I guess my biggest concern with a direct democracy, and I'm not dismissing your guys' statements on accountability and being heard and being engaged. I think those are all logical, optimistic views of what direct democracy could be. I guess my biggest concern is, do we really want the least educated, least informed, least intelligent people having a say in what is going on? If we look at our country's founding, and we'll get to this after the project, there was a reason why our founding fathers wanted people to be picked by the citizens to represent them. Their idea was those people would be the most educated, most intelligent, most informed. Do we really want the lowest common denominator having a voice on what we do and what we don't do? That's a concern for me. At the same point in time, are we ever going to agree on anything? We have 535 members in the United States Congress between the House of Representatives, 435, and 100 senators. They can't agree on anything. Can we get 150 million Americans to agree on something? With that being said, is that bad? Some people believe that government inaction, government stalemates, government not being able to do anything is great. If the government can't agree to get anything done, to change any laws, to pass any legislation, that's perfect, because that means your freedoms are protected. I pointed this out a couple of weeks ago. The government literally cannot do a single thing that doesn't result in you, the American citizen, losing freedom. Even things as simple as holidays, the 4th of July, Christmas, Indigenous Populations Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. It used to be Columbus Day. Hey, neither here nor there. Even the simple fact of establishing a holiday is a limitation of freedoms. Do you work that day? Because if you're not working that day because of a federal holiday, or if you're not working because your employer knows that the expectation of a federal holiday is to not work, that's a restriction of freedoms on the corporations. It's a restriction on your freedoms. What's open, what's not? Can you go to the bank on the holiday? Can you mail something on the holiday? Are the libraries open? What's open, what's closed? It's a restriction. The government can do nothing that isn't a limitation on your freedom. So maybe a direct democracy is good, even if you do have the dumbest people involved in making decisions, because they won't get anything done. And that ensures that nothing changes and freedoms are still there. They're protected. They're protected by governmental gridlock. I do like the optimism in your answers, right? It shows that you guys have this, hope and hope and aspiration for the future. I think that's a noble thing. I don't know if it's achievable though, and our answers didn't reflect that. So make sure going forward that if there's an and in there, make sure we're getting both parts of the questions answered. The next thing I want to do is compare Montesquieu and Rousseau to Hobbes and Locke. We did this a couple of days ago, or a few days ago. There's no question that Hobbes is standalone on establishing an absolute government, and we know there's problems with that, right? An absolute government is clearly going to allow for an authoritarian government to establish, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if the authoritarian government has the best interests of its people in mind. But obviously that's not the case. Most authoritarian governments have a sense of dictatorship, oppression on their people. Rousseau and Montesquieu most definitely align with Locke, right? That limited government. Montesquieu talks about the three powers of government being separate, held by different people or different bodies of people, because he does not want a totalitarian to be established, be created, develop. Same would be true with Rousseau. Man is born free, yet everywhere he's in chains. He is arguing that everyone should have a say in government. Everything should be voted on discussed, debated by every single person, so one group cannot take advantage over the other. And you cannot deny in the last 250 some years, or about to be 250 years of American history, that the wealthy has not exploited the lower income families. Like, that cannot be denied. But he too is arguing for a limited government, that, you know, the wealthy cannot exploit the poor. All right, the rest of the week, let's get to the agenda here. We're starting to work on our Enlightenment Philosophers project. The first thing that you are going to do is get a little baseline here on what life is like in the United States. And unless you've been under a rock, you should have some idea of this. But again, some of us aren't too in tune with politics. So you're going to watch a video and complete 3 questions while you're watching it. Now, I still have the video embedded. For whatever reason, it takes it a long time to load up. So if that's the case for you, and perhaps I would just direct you to take the link to the video. It's a PBS video, about 50 minutes long. I think it's relatively engaging for a PBS video. It's not terribly boring, but you'll watch the 50-some minute video. Now, be careful when you take the link. If your cursor is up at the top where the drop-down menus are, it could very well cover up the video, and then you're not going to be able to see it. So make sure your cursor is down a little bit so you can watch the video. Whilst watching the video, you are going to complete the video guide, right? And it's more or less getting you to understand, like, what's the natural state of man in the United States? What are the causes of this division? And then I ask you, which form of government do you think, which philosopher's idea of government is the best for today, and explain. These are not necessarily in chronological order. This is more of a summative, after you watch the video, cumulative set of questions. So what I would recommend is read the questions first, so while you're watching the video, you can add things in when they apply to the question. Now, this is what we're going to use as a baseline for our project. The project, let me back up here. The video is due on Friday. You need to have the video watched by Friday this week so you can start the project. The project is due, the project is due next Friday, the 6th. I see I have an error here. It is due next Friday, the 6th. Change that. Or why I moved my schedule around. So you'll have a week to work on this project. The project itself, all right, Google Slides presentation. You can see the embedded directions, and then here is the link. This is obviously kind of taken from my in-person class. You're not working in groups, you're doing this individually, all right? You're going to create a system of government that is best suited for today's problems, basically looking at that video, what's going on. It doesn't have to be limited to what you see in the video. I'm sure some of you have ideas or examples of, you know, problems that we face in this country. But you're going to create a government based on 2 philosophers' ideas of government. Could be Locke and Montesquieu, could be Hobbes and Rousseau, whatever. Don't really care. It's up to you. But you're going to pick 2 Enlightenment philosophers' ideas to create a government. You'll summarize each philosopher's ideas of government. You'll articulate why their combined ideas of government are the best for the United States in the 21st century. And as I've said before, no single form of government is perfect. Even this hybrid one is not going to be perfect. So I want you to identify at least one area of concern with this government. What does it not address? Where can abuse or oppression occur? Where can gridlock occur? Where can where can, like, flash in the pan periods of scaredom occur, like the Red Scare, or, you know, after 9/11, the retribution that was taken against Muslim Americans. Like, is that a problem of your government? Your must-haves. Got to have a Google Slides presentation. Again, we can ignore the group members, but we need to have a Google Slides presentation. For your slides, you need to have 1 or 2 slides where you are summarizing the philosopher's ideas. You need to have 3 to 5 slides where you are laying out the reasons that support this form of government. You have to both talk about current event, COVID, and why Montesquieu's form of government is the best, or the war on terror and why Rousseau's form of government is the best. You have to have a current event, and you have to then explain why this form of government is best to handle that current event issue. So 3 to 5 slides justifying your government, its structure, and why it is best to solve the problem that we're dealing with. And then you need to have at least 1 slide identifying where your form of government is inadequate. What problems could develop with this form of government, all right? It's an asynchronous class, so we don't need to worry about people speaking, right? So we can skip that part out. And because you're not speaking, we can skip the whole 3 to 5 minutes thing. But the points are still going to be the same. Are your slides organized, logical, and without error? All right. For the content, do you provide an accurate description of the philosopher's ideas of government? 20 points. Do you provide a logical and accurate use of current events to support the enlightened philosopher's form of government? Are you fully explaining why this is the best form of government? Okay. And then there is 10 points for just the overall quality, right? Is it apparent that you guys put some time into your slides? You've got bullet points. You've got similar font throughout the project, right? I'm not having to squint and use binoculars to read 10-point font. There isn't, a biblical amount of writing on each slide. Like, is it a quality presentation? There will be no more videos this week because I've kind of already explained this project. All right. So you'll watch the video first, answer the questions, submit the video guide. Then you'll start working on the project. The video is due Friday. The project is due next Friday. We'll have check-in times on Tuesday and Thursday this week. We'll have check-in times next week on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But this is what we are doing for the next 2 weeks. So if you have questions, again, that check-in time will be a great opportunity for you to ask that. You can always send me an email as well. But this is what we are doing for the next 2 weeks. No new information, no new reading. It is watching the video and putting together your presentation. Hope you're all doing well. And until I see you at check-in time, go Spartans.